Double Trouble, the penultimate episode of season 3, isn't really much to hang their head on. It's more of a big giant setup episode for next week's final round. And trust me, by this point, I'm just glad to be out of here. But here are the bullet points of what you need to know. There is a boys' academic assessment happening. Not a test, but more or less a meeting. The guys' grades are slipping. Everybody's grades are slipping, actually. The Ryoka Warriors are starting to lose grip on their actual real world. Why? Because Xana keeps applying the pressure more and more. It's like a pipe about to burst. And boy, is it about to. The big thing you gotta recall is that the mountain sector is finally taken out here. Yes, yes. Is it to serve the purpose of we have to get to the finale? Yes. Is it a good aesthetic choice? No, not really. It's poor to say the least. Just like everything this season. It's just nothing works here. The Ryoka Warriors have no chance to win it. It's not even a debate whether they do or don't. It's just bad. The whole way. The Ryoka Warriors are given the worst position of them all. And it's just 20 minutes of them losing. Losing at life, losing in Ryoko, losing. So, what's the solution they come up with? To finally, against Yumi's rejections, again, to let William in on it. Yep, this is the episode in which William Dunbar gets recruited as the sixth member, and the final piece, the giant mistake that is this entire season, is put into place. Sure, this episode isn't terrible, but it isn't good either. It's just there to serve a purpose of setup. Nothing except for William's recruitment and the fact that, they can get into Sector 5 directly now without the Scythio transporter. And the fact that, you know, Jeremy's successful in tracking France Hopper, Aelita's father, on the internet. I guess there are some positive things to talk about with this episode, but they scant amount to anything in the direct of the final two episodes. They only come around later in season 4. It doesn't mean anything now. And the train is about to careen completely off the tracks, or at least be done rolling downhill to its inevitable demise. Triple Trouble is Double Trouble, unlike Triple Trouble, is harmless. It's completely harmless. In fact, you could skip this episode completely and miss nothing. Literally nothing. William doesn't get properly recruited into the team until the first 2 minutes of final round's proper start, and the plot actually happens more or less in final round. This episode is just tension on top of tension. But to me, it's finally a sign that I'm out of here. that we're finally going to be able to talk about good Code Lyoko again. I just have to put up with 2 more episodes, which means preferably 2 more videos, the review for Final Round and the final season overview. And then we can finally talk about good stuff again. And thank God. I need it like a hole in the head. Sure, if you needed the tension ratcheted up any further, then this episode does that. But if you're just over it, if you're over the Code Xana misuse, if you're over the Aelita abuse, if you're over the linear plot to the inevitable end, and you just want to get it over with, skip Double Trouble. It's not even needed. It's a 2 out of 6. In a season that is poorly constructed, Double Trouble acts as the penultimate nail before the final nail in this season's horrifyingly bad coffin. Tensions are risen, things happen, but things aren't really important yet. But as we'll find out next week, Code Lyoko is about to perform the ultimate and final of its sins. You're about to find out why I made an entire video about how this season could have been corrected. Because it's finally about time. It's time to talk about Final Round. It's time to put a pin on Season 3 as a whole, too. But I'm going to need an entire 2 weeks to put a pin in it. So you're going to get the Final Round review next week on time. And then the week after, you'll get my Season 3 overview. And by the way, I'll warn you now, the Season 3 overview will probably be the single most criticizable moment that I will ever have with this franchise, with this show, and with this retrospective. I've been waiting nearly 20 years to talk about in totality how bad this season is. And in 2 weeks, you finally get to hear me say it. But we have to get through Final Round first. That comes next week. But heads up, I'll be recording it directly after this one. So if the visuals don't change, that's why. Because I want to get these final 2 reviews done. And oh, by the way, I had already watched these episodes 2 weeks ago. That's how prepared I am. Let's get Season 3 over and done. I'll see you in the next video next week. Find peace in your own nirvana. And thanks for reading the Aelita Diaries this week.